Everybody here? You want to go ahead and get started? Okay. We'll open up with prayer. God, may we always know we are not alone in this world and in our mission, your mission to bring love and forgiveness, hope and reconciliation to this world. May we seek out and assist everyone, each other, that is in the part of the mission, that is part of the mission. And may we always seek your goodness and love. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so today we're going to talk about our place in the world, of course, but what is our church in the denomination of the United Church of Christ? So from the beginning, I mean, you can see it in the Bible, in Acts, particularly when the church first started. There was always been a struggle to keep the church as one. There were those that tried to take the church in a different direction, and the church has always fought against them. Early in the history of the church, we see what is called the Gnostics, who believed in a more spiritual interpretation of what Jesus was teaching. And there's writings in the New Testament that show that they were trying to keep them from taking over. Even Jesus himself in John 19, he prays for all believers that we would be unified. So there's always been this struggle to try to keep the church together on thought and theology, and not to be splintered into many different denominations as it is today. The big split in the church probably came when Protestantism arose. All the Protestant denominations, Zwingli, Hess, Martin Luther, broke away from the Catholic Church and formed their own denominations, if you will. They didn't really see themselves as breaking away from the church as much as they saw trying to correct the church. These were attempts to reform the church, and thus they get their name, the Reformers. But they divided the church. It's basically what has happened. So people now decide they want to go with Luther or Calvin or Zwingli or any of these other branches of the church that have said that theology is wrong, and we want to get back to what was originally intended for the church. Many denominations have been formed since then. You could go online and you can see that more denominations are being formed every day. And I don't know why. I guess my N wasn't working there, but it should say many denominations and many churches today. Many churches today claim no denominational affiliation whatsoever. They either call themselves a community church or they call themselves a Christian church, and they have no ties with anything other than their church, their local individual church. So that's how divided our churches have become. Okay, so with all these denominations out there, there's pros and cons of joining a denomination. You have a small church such as ours, and you want to be something, you want to join a denomination because you don't want to just be that local church, the community church. You see a mission beyond your community. So what are some pros and cons to joining a denomination? Some of the pros, of course, is, helping with finances. A lot of times denominations will We'll help you find a pastor and implement a pastor salary and help with the building funds and stuff like that before until your church is large enough to sustain itself. The whole concept of being part of something bigger than just yourself. That's that idea that you're a church, not just for your community, but also to send a message to the whole, to bring the message of the gospel to the whole world. And then there's more resources. There's Bible studies and sermons and all this other stuff that are out there through the denomination that all, especially today with the internet, all you have to do is find them and download them, and you can use them in your local church. Some of the cons, paying membership, you have to pay, a lot of times you have to pay dues for each one of your members. And then people will say, well, they're not helping us. Why are they, why we have to pay them to do nothing, especially if they kind of leave you alone and let you do your own thing. But the membership dues are well, it's a con right now, that's what we'll say. The worry that the denomination may dictate how you run your church and how you do things in your church. You want to be independent, you want to do things your own way, but you want to be part of something bigger. So there's kind of this handoff. And then they may have a theology or a set of beliefs that don't align with yourself, with your local church. And so that's, you might not want to do that. So anyway, those are some pros and cons. Anybody think of any others?
I think one of the pros is, like you said, being a part of something bigger, but also the ability to lobby with other churches when you have social issues that you want to really be more impactful about. There's, that kind of a thing. And I think one of the negatives is sometimes if your church wanders away from the, not necessarily the UCC, but if your church starts to wander from the denomination, like the Methodists, United Methodists have done, it's really, you really don't have any leverage if you're not in the majority. So if you have become more progressive in your thought and in your congregation, diversity sort of thing, then you really are kind of lost if you don't find yourself at odds with your denomination.
Yeah, that's good. Those are actually the two things kind of are on the same level there. The idea of strength in numbers, and then the idea of what do you do if your beliefs progress past what the denomination is doing, such as a lot of the Methodist churches are becoming open and affirming, yet the denomination hasn't accepted that yet. So where do you go from there? I was thinking of the history and how during the U.S. history when slavery they were fighting over slavery, whether it was the Baptist church split over the issue, and some of them wanted to hold on to slavery and use the Bible to form a theology and say it's biblical to have slaves. And then the other said, no, being progressive, so you can see how, yeah, that's definitely a con, Okay, so moving on. So here's a church's decision of the denomination. So you have a small church, and you can see they want to be part of a denomination, or they don't. They want to stay independent. And that's nice if you form a church, a small church in your local community, then you have that ability to say, do I want to become a denomination, or do we want to just stay independent? And I think Faith Family had gone through this when we became a church. I know that when we first became a church, we were a community church, and then we made decisions to become the UCC affiliate. most of the founding people of the UC, or excuse me, the faith family, coming out of the MCC, Metropolitan Church, and so there was this desire to become affiliated with a denomination, but didn't want to go back there, and so moved on to the United Church of Christ. I mean, I wasn't there at that time, so I don't know all the decision making. So, but anyway, the decision was made. They weighed the pros and cons, and they come up with this. And this is Faith Family. We were an appended church, made the decision to become a part of the UCC denomination. That's what we did. So, anybody know anything? I mean, I've heard that one of the main, let's say the main, one of the reasons was to help secure a retirement for the founding pastor. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I was actually that would be in the pro column over there, to help with the pastor establish a retirement. Anybody? Okay, we'll move on. Okay, so Faith Family's decision. This is interesting. Okay, because I titled this Faith Family's decision, and what I wanted to emphasize was we should always be reevaluating our relationship as a church in our local community, and as a church within the UCC. And being in the UCC, does it fulfill our local mission? Does it help us, or is it becoming burdensome for us? I think that being in the UCC, it grants us a unique relationship, unlike many denominations. Many denominations don't give the local church, the small church, local autonomy, or let them govern themselves the way the UCC does. They have a set of rules and standards that they enforce, but they're not going to come and take over your church and take your pastor away from you or anything like that. They just disassociate with you. So you become not part of their denomination. Whereas other denominations would actually come in and take over your church. So I think I like that about the UCC, that they allow for a local government. And like I always say, as long as we're not saying that, Satan is actually Jesus's brother, and then he just needs more love or something crazy like that, they're not going to come in and say, you guys are out of the denomination. But so they allow leeway for each individual church to make their own decisions. And this is a good point here. While the UCC, that's the whole of all the churches, hold to an open and affirming stance, it's not a requirement to be part of the UCC. Each church has the ability to say that about themselves. Of course, we tell ourselves that, or we profess to be open and affirming, and so, but not all UCC churches have to do that, and that's part of their local autonomy, governing themselves. So, UCC is based on a covenant relationship. All sides are fulfilling duties for the other. When we say the UCC, we think about all the churches, and not the governing body of the UCC. There's two levels there when we say the UCC. The UCC is a makeup of all the churches that have agreed to be in this covenant relationship with each other. And they've created not a governing body, but conferences and synods, kind of that overlooks everybody else's and kind of gives a consensus of what everybody is doing and everybody is thinking, and then puts that out to all the churches. And so we can either agree with that or we can disagree with that. And it's not going to change who we are as a church. So that's a unique relationship. You know, I myself came from Christian Church of Christ, where it was all local autonomy, and they didn't really have fellowships outside of the local church. I mean, you would get an area of churches, but there was nothing over top of them saying, hey, this is what everybody is doing. A lot of that recommendation comes from the colleges and stuff like that. But for the most part, you could do anything you wanted and nobody could say anything because you're basically a local church and unaffiliated. And as a matter of fact, the Churches of Christ, Christian churches, claim that they're non-denominational. So coming from that background, I'm a big proponent on the local church having its own stance and own government. I think it's important because how do you minister to people in a rural area, say in rural Kentucky, and have the same set of guidelines for someone that's ministering in downtown Tampa or something like that? You got so much different. There's so much differences there. You have to have leeway to do what's best for that local church. And I think of all the denominations that I have seen, the UCC allows this most of all. Like I say, the conferences and the synods, those are kind of overlooking everybody and try to give us a consensus of what all the other churches that we're in covenant with are doing. It's kind of like they say, like I say in here, it's designed to keep everybody up to date in regards to theology, thoughts. And of course, the UCC is big on social justice themes. So understanding how other churches are dealing with ministering within the social justice range. And then this is crazy. And then I think it was talked about. Some people was murmuring on the sidelines about not staying in the UCC, and that's something that we can do. That we can always say, hey, your ways and our ways are just too far apart, so we can dissolve the relationship. Or the UCC can come down and say, we don't like your theology, you need to change that, or you're stepping out of your local area and causing some divisions, and we don't want you as part. Or your minister may be doing some things, your pastor may be doing some things that aren't in line with the etiquette of ministry. So they can ask you to leave the UCC. So that's interesting. But the whole point of this whole slide here is that we should always be reevaluating our relationship, and asking, is this the best relationship for us and for the church and for our ministry to the community? That's it. That's all I have for this week. I was hoping for a lot of discussion about this. I think I'm going to set it up for next week. And the next week, I want to look at the history of the UCC and really get into, how amazing some of the things that the UCC has done over the decades throughout its history. And of course, pre-UCC, the pre-UCC denominations and what they're doing. And how what the UCC is doing now. And then I want to ask the question, is the UCC still a good fit for faith family? And I hope next week we have a lot more people and we have a lot of discussion. I'm really interested in hearing what people have to say about this question. Anybody got anything else?
Guess not.
All right. Well, kind of a short class with nobody talking. Well, thank everybody for coming, and I hope your Holy Week is not as busy as I am, and hopefully you will have some peace. And of course, hope comes in the morning, and we'll see that Sunday morning, Easter Sunday. So see everybody then. Thank you. Bye.